a matchup.
And what a team, Mike. Metro PCS and the iPhone SE for $0 on a network that covers 99% of people in the U.S. Oh, impressive.
Play with the best. Switch to Metro PCS on an unlimited LTE plan and get a 32-gig iPhone SE for $0. Metro PCS. Coverage not available in some areas, plus sales tax. Claim based on talk and text. Not valid for active numbers currently on the T-Mobile network or active on Metro PCS in the past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network.
Everyone, welcome to Paraversal Universe on the Inception Radio Network. Brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited and the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center here in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek.
Hello, everyone.
And hello to everybody in the IRN chat room. We look forward to your questions and comments as always. IRNchat.com is the link for the chat room, so come join us there. Tonight we're going to be talking to psychotherapist and paranormal investigator Tom McGuire, who is in the house with us tonight. But before we dive into this interview, let's do tonight's shoutouts. Shoutouts go to those individuals and organizations who share our show banners on social media every week. We thank you kindly and appreciate it greatly. Who do we have?
Okay. We have Walt Christos, Thoughts of Christos, Cindy Lou Bizarro World, Anna Eccleston, Cody River, Pang Radio, Becky Sibley, Marilyn Borst, Alan Larson, Allison Jornlin, Stormy Beasley Williams, Dawn and Brent Elmer, Steve Hemingway, Beverly Bonin, Watkins Jennifer, Jason Bland of Paranormal Soup, JJ Demlos of JJ Paranormal, Howie Odell of The Orion Effect and The Rift, Steve Foster, and Stormy Williams.
And thank you to everybody in the IRN chat room, as well. It's always good to see the regulars and the new people as well. So thanks for coming on. And okay, so this evening, we have with us our good friend and colleague, Tom McGuire, psychotherapist and paranormal investigator with the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited. Tom is a licensed professional counselor and is co-owner of Cornerstone Psychological Associates, LLC, in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. He's been counseling in the field for more than 20 years. Tom grew up in the Chicago area. He obtained his BA in psychology from Chicago State University, and he has his Master's of Arts degree in counseling from the Governor State University in Illinois. He specializes in helping veterans, police, firefighters, medical professionals, and others with the stress reactions of dealing with so much exposure to trauma. Tom is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. Tom has been interested in the paranormal for years. Some of his clients have been dealing with unexplained events in their homes. Tom found out about the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society in October of 2013 and has been a member ever since. Tom uses his skill to help families with stress of dealing with the trauma caused by paranormal events they're experiencing in their homes. And it's always a pleasure and an honor for us to bring on a fellow team member who we work with on a regular basis. And we've had Tom on the show twice before in the 4 years. Once was for our, I believe, second year season premiere, and the other time Tom and Damien Bertrand split an episode. Therapy was the topic. So tonight we have Tom with us here, for a full hour. So let's get things rolling. Thanks for coming on the show, Tom.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here again. I hope people in the chat room can give me a lot of questions. I'm glad that you guys give me this opportunity. Now that I've had some more experience from the last time I was on the show with the paranormal, I feel like it's going to be useful. And one of my important things that I want to discuss is what people in the psychological field understand about the paranormal, and hopefully make a difference by talking about that.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that because that is important. Let's start with this is a basic question, but there's some people out there who probably they've heard of psychotherapy, but they may not exactly, it may not click as to exactly what that is. Can you explain exactly what psychotherapy entails, like what your job, what you do on a daily basis, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Psychotherapy is basically to help people get through difficult times in their life and help with some different stresses that they're going on, whether it's financial stress or dealing with illness or dealing with relationships that they might be suffering from. And some people have anxiety and come up with depression and other symptoms and other problems that they feel the therapist can help them with. So I meet with people on an outpatient basis, which means they come for an hour session, usually once a week, and over time we help them work through what's bothering them and also help them set goals that at the end of these sessions I want to accomplish this or I want to improve that. And so that's what I do, and that's what psychotherapy is.
You know, you work with people who suffer from PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder,
Right.
Which is a specialty of yours. Can you talk about the PTSD for a bit before we discuss it in relation with paranormal?
Yeah, post-traumatic stress disorder is a disorder that happens to a lot of different people. Everyone's heard about combat veterans getting PTSD. Some of us, maybe all of us, experience a time in our life, like if we were in a traumatic situation like a car accident, or we're dealing with a death of a loved one, or we're in a dangerous situation that occurs. Even little children sometimes develop symptoms if something happens to them, they perceive it being dangerous to them. And so they might have some reactions and change their behaviors or withdraw things or get really scared and are really anxious at times. And if everybody does that at first when you have something you're afraid of. But if it's persistent and it keeps interfering with your life and it changes you in certain ways that aren't healthy, even children can develop post-traumatic stress symptoms. If it lasts more than a month, people are really suffering, and then they are given the diagnosis of the disorder. And so some things that happen is people have nightmares about what happened, or they have dreams about safety, like if somebody's chasing them, or they're a fearful dream. It doesn't always have to be about the event. Also, it's like recollections, things that remind them of the event that could occur. Like if, say, a little child, a bird came down and, hit him in the head or something accidentally with the wing, that could be really traumatic, and then they might be afraid of birds for a while. An adult could have a near car accident where they have to slam on the brakes and avoid getting hit, but sometimes they don't get over it, and some people keep obsessing about that so much that they have to stop driving. They can't drive, otherwise the fear comes up. So a lot of times it's something simpler than what we typically think of as a dangerous situation, but it's all perceived by the person. So, a 4-year-old that gets hit by a bird could be a really scary thing, and they could develop some symptoms. Or an adult that had something happen to them, it can develop into symptoms too, even though they might not have been really in danger.
And that makes sense, what may be one person's problem is not someone else's problem. But to that individual, it's, to them at the time, the biggest problem in the world. Like a kid, for instance, like you said, something happens, and to them it's the biggest deal. And we look at it, and it's like, it's not a big deal. But to them, it is.
Speaking of that, we have a question for you in the chat room.
Questions already, okay.
Yeah. Max, this question comes from Max. I lost my son 10 years ago at the age of 17, and I have not been quite right since. Is this normal or not?
No one can put a time limit on someone's grief. I'm sorry for your loss, Max. It really hurts if you lose a child. That's the worst thing a parent could have happened to them. And don't worry about it if it's taken a long time to feel better, but if it's just natural to think about your son and have feelings about it. If you feel that what's going on with you is so much that you can't focus at work, or you're crying every day, and it's really interfering with who you are. I know that if you believe in the afterlife, that your son doesn't want you to suffer like that. So sometimes it's helpful to see a therapist for a while to get through those intense feelings, so you feel more like your old self again. Good luck to you, Max.
Yeah, I can relate too with that as well, and it is there's definitely ups and downs, and I think something like that, I don't think people truly get over. It depends on one's definition, I guess, but it's certainly something where, like I still cheer up and whatnot, and I find that it's getting better with time. And I also find though that sometimes things can trigger a thought, like I won't even be thinking about it, and just some random thing will trigger a thought, and I'll just take you right back there. But yeah, good luck to you, Max. I know, like with I know Jennifer and I believe that every paranormal team that works with individuals and families should at least have one person with psychological background to help assess situations at hand. Because there's a lot of different angles. I mean, it may not just be assessing, but it may be noticing red flags. It may be things that could be done. Like, losing a loved one is certainly the hardest. There are other things too, which could be, thus the end of your title, which is therapy. And let's see, but let's see, where am I here? It's not always easy to find a qualified individual, though, who's willing to do paranormal work, although that's starting to change as the paranormal taboo disintegrates. Can you tell us why you decided to pursue serious paranormal research and investigation?
Well, I've always wanted to be a helper, and so that's one reason I really felt good about getting into this field of.
What a matchup!
And what a team, Mike. Metro PCS and the iPhone SE for $0 on a network that covers 99% of people in the U.S. Oh, impressive.
Play with the best. Switch to Metro PCS and an unlimited LTE plan and get a 32-gig iPhone SE for $0. Metro PCS. Coverage not available in some areas, plus sales tax. Claim based on talk and text. Not valid for active numbers currently on the T-Mobile network or active on Metro PCS in the past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Being a counselor, a psychotherapist, and I've always been interested in the paranormal. You know, when Ghost Hunters came on TV, I watched every episode and really came to believe that I already believed that there was an afterlife, and it makes sense that some spirits have things they want to do before they move on, and I believe some of them can be confused when they die, especially if it's traumatic. So even spirits might have some post-traumatic stress syndromes with confusion or not realizing they're dead, or maybe other spirits might have something they want to do before they move on, make amends to people, or stick around to help family members. And one thing that Jennifer and I are thinking of doing is we already found one spirit that is that way and needs some help to move on. So we're planning on going to where that spirit is residing and see if we can, with Jennifer's help, picking up what the spirit is thinking about or talking to her about, and helping Jennifer help communicate with the spirit to resolve issues that making them stick around here. So that's something we haven't been able to do that yet, but that's one of our plans. I don't know if there's anybody know if any other groups have done that with. Let us know. That'd be neat to get information about it.
Yeah, it's hard to find. It's hard to find either a good psychic or a psychotherapist willing to work in the paranormal field. To find both of them in the same spot that are on the same page and willing to do that, I think is rare. I don't know.
It's extremely rare.
Yeah, and so that's, and we were just talking about that before we went on the show. That's something that's coming up soon. That's going to be quite interesting to see how that goes, and to see how it plays out, and absolutely.
Yeah, we're actually thinking about starting that next year because there are a couple of places that we've been at in the past where spirits would like to cross over and necessarily are having a hard time finding their way, whether it's the lack of light or whether it's because they just need to find closure, see if they have any messages, see if there's anything we can help them with to make their transition to the other side over a little bit easier.
Yeah. And one of my roles that I enjoy is helping the families, because sometimes when they have some paranormal events in their homes and it's been going on for a while, a lot of times people develop post-traumatic stress symptoms that they might need to deal with. If they get scared often or startled, or and then they get tired, they can't sleep well, and maybe they get irritable and start arguing with each other. in my role, I can help the family understand how to cope with what's going on, as well as the rest of the team working on doing what we can to make the atmosphere in the home improved. If there's a dark entity, or if there's just good spirits, we can help the family understand what they and accept what's happening, and help validate that what's going on with them isn't just them hallucinating, and making sure they understand they're not crazy. I think it's really important. So I encourage any psychotherapists out there, don't just normally assume that it's hallucinating, people are hallucinating, or it's a explainable cause for what's going through. So sometimes it's not explainable, and it's important to more psychotherapists are open in that, so they don't have somebody on a medication for hallucinating when the person isn't really hallucinating.
That's a good point, and that was my next question, which was, do you think there are times when people may go to see a psychotherapist or a psychologist for things that they're experiencing, and the experiences are misdiagnosed as mental health issues, like you just said, when it may be an exterior issue opposed to an internal issue, like paranormal activity, for example. And and we were talking before too. That can go both ways. I mean, there are I know there are may not happen all the time, and it may be rare, but I know there have been cases where people have been diagnosed as having some kind of disorder when they have been later on treated, we'll say, with theology instead of psychology, where they'll have a deliverance or an exorcism, and they're cured, and all of a sudden whatever, was diagnosed as a mental health issue wasn't that. It was, there was something else, because, there are cases where people get cured, whether not just mental, but with physical ailments too. People have had physical ailments, and they've had you can almost call it a miracle, where you have a whole congregation pray for the person, and then something happens, and they go see the doctor, and everything's fine. Like, they can't find any symptoms when before they thought it was, progressing and serious and whatnot. I just think stuff like that's amazing. So that's a good point, that we shouldn't, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater all the time. Sometimes you gotta look a little deeper. So I guess another thing I'd like to know is I see this, but how can a psychotherapist help individuals deal with reoccurring perceived paranormal activity?
If someone has to go into a situation again and again, it's very difficult for them to cope. And having a paranormal team and realizing, and it's it's a really good paranormal team that has values, and if their goal is to help others, it seems to make a big difference in their lives. They can call and connect, touch base with the team, for months if necessary, so you get that extra support. Also, I would teach the family skills on how to relieve the anxiety and stress that naturally accompany them when there's activities in their home. And the other part of it, of course, is the team itself is trying to resolve whatever is in the home and find reasons for it occurring, and try to change the atmosphere of the residents, and resolve some of its things, so there would be a better environment and easier to get rid of the symptoms that they have that are causing them stress. And then we also look at other things going on in the family's life. We just don't look at the paranormal. We look at the whole system that the family's going through and try to make things better in different ways and lead them to different ideas about support. That works out pretty good for us as a team.
Yeah, when we get a case, I mean, we can't. It's so important that we just don't jump to the paranormal conclusion, that we rule everything else out first. In fact, in paranormal investigating, that's what should be done. It should be the last thing that you look at. You know, like, in other words, rule everything else out first. Anything that it could be this or it could be that. And with a lot of situations, it's not just one thing that needs to be done to resolve whatever issue they're having, but it's several things. You know, like saying, you know, like, well, if they're experiencing activity and it's stressing them out and bugging them out, and we've seen where just having the support system and working with the clients for a period of time, you know, giving them information and plus having an ear to listen to what they're saying, where they start to in turn feel better, like, about the whatever situation, like they can deal with it better, they can cope with it better, if it comes back or if it arises again, or we've seen that before. One thing that just popped into my head was, if somebody has PTSD from a non-paranormal event, and then they have, let's say they move into a home that's haunted and they start having paranormal events, are they more likely to have PTSD from that because they've already suffered that before?
Yes, that happens at a number of times. Even if they have a second event that isn't paranormal, it can make, they call that complex PTSD, where, say they have a car accident and then 2 years later they have another car accident, and during the first car accident they develop symptoms of PTSD, and it took them a long time to get through that, or they still having symptoms from it even after a couple of years, and they have another traumatic event on top of that. It turns into complex PTSD, which means it's been exacerbated by another traumatic incident, and they have to work through it more intensely and maybe get different types of treatments in order to be able to be okay again. So just think of a family that every night they have a startling experience. It's really difficult for a family. So our first priorities when we find when someone calls for an investigation is if there's children in the family, we put them as the first priority, and then make sure we get the people that we know aren't coping well with having paranormal experiences. Other people who have read about it and is more educated about paranormal and understand that happens, and it's really, they're open to it. They usually are able to cope a little bit better than a person that doesn't ever believe in that part of it. That there's able to be spirits beyond life. So we set the priorities. We evaluate which case we need to do first before we even go to their house, and we talk to them on the phone and get as much information. And I listen on the phone and evaluate how they're coping with things, so I get it from my angle. And then we have a minister on our team. We have medical people on our team. We have people that have psychic abilities, And we have people that are really on top of the science part of it, and we even have an electrical engineer, and it's the holistic way of dealing with the paranormal, no matter what type of incident we're working on. And that's what we encourage other teams to have. Someone who just goes in and once and trying to get evidence isn't really doing what should be done. Professionals always take the family into consideration and try to do the best for the family situation, whether it's paranormal or not.
Okay, everybody. We will be right back after this commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe on the Inception Radio Network.
What a matchup!
And what a team, Mike. Metro PCS and the iPhone SE for $0 on a network that covers 99% of people in the U.S. Oh, impressive.
Play with the best. Switch to Metro PCS and an unlimited LTE plan and get a 32-gig iPhone SE for $0. Metro PCS. Coverage not available in some areas, plus sales tax. Claim based on talk and text. Not valid for active numbers currently on the T-Mobile network or active on Metro PCS in the past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Welcome back to Paraversal Universe on the Inception Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek, and we're talking to psychotherapist Tom McGuire from the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society. But before we bring him back on, we'd like to take a minute and thank everybody that makes Paraversal Universe possible, including graphic arts designer Lawrence DeMisa, webmaster Joe Champion, music by Matt Stenz, producer Mike M.J. Lucas, and of course to God for granting us this wonderful show and the opportunity here to be with you all. This segment is brought to you by Lucas Wellness, the UFO Wisconsin research team, and the book Trail of the Sasquatch. We also have 3 Paraversal Universe like pages to check out on Facebook, and also Jennifer Malek, Psychic Demonologist, Jennifer's like page. And of course, the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited like page. And we also have 2 group pages worth noting, Lake Monstrosities and Ultimate Conspiracies. If you have any questions for our guest, go to ironchat.com. To go to our live Iron chat room, where you can post questions and make comments, and Jennifer will pass those along. And this is a segment to ask questions. So,
right. And if anyone has if anyone out there has any questions, please make sure that you type them in caps so that I can see them.
Right, because sometimes people in chat will ask each other questions, right? And then it's like, who are you asking? Okay, so we are back with Tom.
All right, so our next question, again, comes from Max. Should people on psychotropic and other mind-altering drugs having paranormal events cause this person great turmoil or even make them dangerous to themselves and others?
Good question, Max. Thank you. What usually happens is that if someone is struggling with hallucinations, and that's what psychotropic drugs are for, and usually from a psychological perspective, they just deal with them as hallucinations. But it's good to realize that it could be just hallucinations. It could be, if the person describes it could be just paranormal and was misdiagnosed as having hallucinations. Or the third option, of course, is the person does struggle with hallucinations and has psychic abilities, and they actually encounter spirits, and sometimes it's hard for them to distinguish between the two. And that's always good to remember that those 3 scenarios can happen. And people in this, when those things happen, if they have support and understanding, it's less likelihood that they would become a danger to themselves or a danger to others. If they have a difficulty because they're all of a sudden in a situation where they are having paranormal experiences that they had never had before, that could be confusing, and they really need support. And it's really important for a team that encounters someone like that to get a psychotherapist or help, either psychiatrist or psychologist or a therapist like I am, to make sure that they understand what things are happening to them, and that helps decrease the likelihood that they could become a danger to themselves. I hope that answers your question, Max.
You know, I like the holistic approach you had brought up before. You know, because with the NWPS, every case we work at, we're all looking at these cases from different angles. You know, it's like a wagon wheel, and we're all individual spokes. And it's good because we know we're covering everything well-rounded, which is important. You know, and the other thing is when we all can agree in the middle, like at the center of that wheel, we know we're onto something. And I think having that approach is helps in the success that we have, because you know we have a real good success rate that I'm totally proud of. You know, working paranormal cases, you know, can be difficult. There's so many factors and aspects, and you know, there's a lot of psychology involved. And does your family support your work in paranormal research? What do they think about Tom as a paranormal investigator?
My family?
Yes.
Well, my daughter, who's on chat right now, Colleen, is all for it, but my wife is afraid that I'll get some attachment to some spirit and bring it home. So I always make sure I pray before I go to a site and pray when I leave a site. And that's, of course, I have ready access to a paranormal team if something ends up at my house.
So we have another question, and this question comes from Dawn and Brent Elmer. People with dementia see many people who are not there. Is there a chance that they are seeing spirits?
Well, that might be a case where they have dementia and also paranormal abilities. So as long as people don't rule out their possibility and be aware of that. One thing would be to say the person's in a nursing home and to be call their paranormal team, and if they're getting help psychologically ready, see if the team members with psychic gifts can pick up any spirits in their location to rule that part out. Older people that are, closer to the end of their life may be seeing experiences. I know my grandmother, a month before she died, she was living with us, saw my grandfather, who already passed away, on the sidewalk out in front of her house, and he was calling to her. And I really believe that she really saw him, and it wasn't the fact that she was getting a little bit more confused. And then she died a month later. So you have to be open to all possibilities. So I hope that answers your question, Dawn and Brent.
And again, the checks and balances are really important too. Like you said, like if you have a situation and, well, it could be this or it could be that, Let's see what the science says. Let's see what the psychics say. Let's see, and just evaluate all that. And another thing is like me personally, I like some people will go see a psychiatrist, and he'll spend maybe 10 minutes with them, and he's written a prescription out and sends them on their way. And some people get help from these, but it seems to me a lot of people don't. Like, the prescriptions don't work, or they got to try something different, or then they're trying something different, and another thing, and they're not getting better, but now they're having side effects. I just think that, it's better and proper to analyze things more deeply and not just jump to conclusions. And I like that. Personally, I like that you're a psychotherapist and not a psychiatrist for that reason. I mean, that's wonderful.
Have you ever experienced anything that really frightened you?
Nothing in the paranormal, because my belief that there is an afterlife and that there can be spirits I think it bolsters my ability that if I ever do see a spirit, that I'll be okay with it. I have seen two unexplained things. One was a cat that was a spirit cat, and that was only for 3 seconds under a cocktail table. And it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was I wasn't startled at all, and I don't think I had enough energy. I was so tired that I would have been startled if I was awake. And then I saw a dark entity when our minister person was blessing a house, and I was at the front door because when that blessing occurs, you're supposed to have a window or door open. So I was at the door, and there was 2 kittens in the house. So I was making sure the kittens didn't run out the door because it's the middle of winter. But I did see a dark entity about the same size as a kitten, maybe a little bigger, completely black. And I saw it out of my right eye, and then I saw it with both eyes, and it was walking out the front door, and it was going along the baseboard of the hallway out the front door. That's my own, and that didn't freak me out either. Because I had knowledge that could happen, and sure enough, it did. I was excited that I was able to see that. That's the only 2 paranormal experiences I've had. What happens with me, even though I'm not involved with seeing the spirits, I've witnessed the amazing change that people have after we do an investigation like that. In the atmosphere in the house, I pick up on the atmosphere, and I notice how more relaxed the people are using my skills of reading people. And so I really believe that the paranormal exists and unexplained exists, and we have to be able to accept that. So I hope more psychotherapists will pick up on that so they don't make incorrect diagnosis.
And just to clarify, on the incident with the cat for the coffee table, I saw it the same time Tom saw it, and oddly enough, 3 days later is when I realized that same cat followed me home and is still here.
Suspectedly. Now, it's funny because I don't see stuff, and since we're talking about this, I was sitting in my chair over here, and this just happened right afterwards. And by the way, one of the claims turned out to be a ghost cat in this house. So now you got 2 people that saw it, okay, and the claim. We get back a couple days later. I have a buddy over here, right? I'm sitting in the chair, and he's sitting on the couch. And right off to my right side, I seen this black thing shoot across, or like go across the kitchen floor. And it looked like it went into to the cabinet where the kitchen sink was. It was really fast, and it was just a split second. And I looked over, and of course it was gone by the time you look over. And I looked back, and I wasn't going to say anything to my buddy. I wasn't going to say anything, and then until I looked over and I saw his eyes were wide. I'm like, did you see that? He goes, I did see that. I'm like, well, what is that? So now I got to go look because he saw it too. So I'm thinking I got a big rodent or something in the house. So I get on all fours and I walk over to where the shot, and I'm looking for any place that it could have gone, like up under something, and there was nowhere anything could have gone. I mean, it literally, and all I can say is that is, when we say a ghost cat, that's what she's talking about. I mean, I've seen it too.
Right.
And we never had it before that case.
No, we didn't. And to date, several other sensitive, psychically gifted people in our society have actually seen the same cat. So, I mean, if that's not validation.
How about the one of them who asked if we had a cat because he was having a...
Yeah, we had one new member. We can't mention his name. We'll just call him Member X. He came over for a meeting, and he was having an allergic reaction. And during the meeting, he asked if we had a cat because he was allergic to cats, and he was literally having some kind of an allergic reaction. So we're sitting there going, okay, now how do you tell a new person that's interested in joining your society that you have a ghost cat hanging around, and that same cat may be responsible for your allergic reaction?
Right. Yeah, because we don't have cats here. Other ones, I mean. But anyways, back to the... no, that's pretty cool, though. So, what is the best advice you could give other mental health professionals who are considering investigating the paranormal?
Well, make sure you find a team that is diverse as the team we have up here, and make sure people are open to the fact that you're there to help and not just there to take advantage of someone or just get evidence of spirits and that really deal with the people and help the people. I think if you have to have, like we say here, you have to have really good intentions, and then it really works. You make a difference in the field. So I encourage psychotherapists, whether they're psychiatrists, psychologists, or master's level therapists, to be open to it, because I think there's a more of an awakening happening, and more people are believing in that there are things beyond the physical environment we have here on Earth, and that's going to change, and they're going to have to change how they perceive people that they just assume is just hallucinations or delusions.
Right. Again, like jumping instantly to the conclusion that it's not paranormal could be as bad as instantly jumping to the conclusion that it is.
Exactly.
And it's like Tom elaborated. One of the things you need to do if you're having activity in your home and you want to call in a team, do your research on them. Make sure that they're credible. Make sure that they've been out there for a really long time and they have a lot of experience under their belt. Make sure it's not one of those fly-by-night teams that tell you that they want to help you, but come in, catch an EVP, take a few photos, and use provocation and cause you more problems than you started with, and just leave because they got what they wanted. You want to find a well-rounded, credible society to work with.
Right. And I also think doing things for the right reasons generally keeps the investigator safer. Like, I feel like, there are, again, it's to me, it's one of the elements of being protected, even. If you're doing things for the right reasons, about anything in life, you're going to fare much better than if you're going in trying to appease yourself or, whatever the case may be, yeah, and we've seen that with other, it's, in fact, we'll get calls and from people who've had other, teams in the past, come in and they don't know any different. They don't know what the team's supposed to do, really. All they know is what they've seen on TV, and that's not always, the best example either, because that's scripted a lot. There's a lot of, you know, it's some of it's real, but a lot of it's not, you know. And again, like the examples we have are on TV, you know, some of them are good, but then you get some where they do the provoking and you know, they do this and they do that, and these cases take more than just a night to work, you know, guaranteed every time. How about let's see, what kind of things would you like to see from the paranormal community in the future?
That's a good question. What I would like to see from paranormal community is just what we were talking about, having respect for the living, but also having respect for the dead. You know, the idea of provocation is really a difficulty for me to see on some television shows. If you're provoking a dark, evil spirit, that's the wrong thing to do. And if you're provoking a human spirit that is on the dark side, they might retaliate. And if it's an inhuman spirit on the dark side, then you probably get a lot of consequences that you didn't want to. So it's really important to be respectful of that side of what's going on too.
Yeah, because we tell people that when we go into these places, it's dangerous to use provocation, because when you get called to whether they're public places or residential homes, you don't know what you're walking into. You don't know what type of entity, whether it is human or not. So doing anything to get a response for provocation is just flat out wrong and disrespectful, because you're doing that to get a reaction that you want to catch something, and then it's like I said a few minutes ago, you get what you want and see you later.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's ask Tom this. What do you think is the best evidence that validates paranormal activity?
The best evidence is something that you know, it can be shown using some devices that have backups that from other devices is one thing to happen. The other evidence for me, it's apparent that it will really make a difference in people's lives. We can tell the atmosphere in the home is completely different. The people feel a lot more relaxed, and even though I don't see any of the spirits, the psychic people who have all these abilities are able to work with the spirits so that they can move on or start learning to respect the living people in the house. And with our team, it seems like we're very successful trying to do that.
Oh, we only have 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Time flies so fast.
Too fast.
Okay. Well, let's see. With a couple minutes left, and we have no questions left in chat. Why don't we just ask you final thoughts for tonight? Do you see yourself doing this until? How long do you see yourself doing this for?
Well, as long as you two guys are young enough to keep pushing my wheelchair when I get one.
That sounds good. Alrighty. Tom, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Thank you for being here with us in the studio. How cool is that?
Yeah, it was such a blast having you on. Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed it.
And yeah, everybody, I can't tell you what a blessing it's been to have Tom and the team. It's you know, if there are anyone listening out there, if you have a team and if you get an opportunity, or you know, to pick up somebody, an investigator who's got skills and education the mental health field, it really adds another dynamic to what you're doing, because I can guarantee with these cases and the work that we've done over this last decade that there is so much, there's a lot of therapy that goes on, there's a lot of counseling that goes on, and there are a lot of different traumas and like the PTSD, and there's just so many different angles where someone like Tom is a huge asset, so if you get a chance, or it doesn't hurt to put feelers out. We were fortunate, we were on TV 1 year, and that's how Tom came across us. We were he had seen us on TV, and they're here, right? And he contacted us, and he's been with us ever since, and I'm so glad.
That's right. We are super lucky and super blessed to have him as a member of our society. So
next week we have Tobias Wayland from Singular Fortean.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So we'll be talking to him about all kinds of Fortean things. Should be exciting. To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming.
And to the skeptic, there will never be enough. Thank you to everybody in chat for your questions. Good night, and we'll see you guys next week.
God bless.
A matchup.
And what a team, Mike. Metro PCS and the iPhone SE for $0 on a network that covers 99% of people in the U.S. Oh, impressive.
Play with the best. Switch to Metro PCS and an unlimited LTE plan and get a 32-gig iPhone SE for $0. Metro PCS. Coverage not available in some areas, plus sales tax. Claim based on talk and text. Not valid for active numbers currently on the T-Mobile network or active on Metro PCS in the past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.